I wouldn't have stepped onto this path unless I was pushed into it.
Okay.
She told me, you're a healer. But there was a point in the psych ward where I was meditating on a ping pong table. So I was saying a prayer. I saw an entity. I saw a being above my bed.
And then suddenly you're having a poltergeist-like experience,
Yeah.
you know, and are you hallucinating it? Is it
Experiencing this connection with spirit and the plants. But I started communicating with my ancestors who had deceased.
So I want to hear a little bit about who you are and then understanding your concept of shamanism or being a shaman.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I wouldn't have stepped onto this path unless I was pushed into it.
Okay.
And, you know, there are shamanic initiations that show up in people's lives that are called to this path. And many healers or psychics or people who are stepping into a vocation similar to this have had experiences in their own life where perhaps they needed to look into alternate forms of healing. And for me, I developed a chronic illness when I was 17 years old, chronic pain and fatigue that spread throughout my body. And I spent the next years of my life visiting different specialists and taking all sorts of medications to really numb those symptoms. As I went through that circuit of Western medicine, it seemed that the best option for me was maybe just to mitigate my symptoms, to have slightly less pain through pharmaceuticals. And there was this feeling with the doctors that I was seeing that healing wasn't on the table.
Yeah.
Healing wasn't an option. In the midst of that experience, I wasn't really a spiritual person. I wasn't raised with much of a spiritual background. But one night I was laying in bed and I was gazing up at the ceiling fan and I was saying a prayer before bed because this experience of my health going down the drain, of my whole life starting to fall apart, it forces you to look into something beyond yourself.
Yeah.
It forces you to find something to believe in. And so I was saying a prayer. I saw an entity, I saw a being above my bed, and it was pretty frightening. It was like a dark cloud, like a vortex, like a tornado opening in my room. I panicked and turned on the lights, and it's a long story, and it was a very intense period of my life. Basically, for the next few weeks, my electronics were turning off and on in the middle of the night. I would be falling asleep and my TV would turn on and off. The things I was trying to use wouldn't work. I started communicating with my ancestors who had deceased. I started seeing spirits, really opening up psychically and spiritually very quickly, to a point where I didn't have any of the tools to deal with what was happening.
Yeah.
Ultimately, my family was worried about me through this experience, and they took me to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist asked me if I would check myself into the psych ward, and so I did. And
Because you don't know, it's like going from not having a spiritual basis or understanding, you weren't that person, and then suddenly you're having a poltergeist-like experience,
Yeah.
you know, and are you hallucinating it? Does it really happen? You enjoying this so far? Did you forget to subscribe? Make sure to do so. It takes 2 seconds. Just press that little button, the red one, you know the one. Just press it, little like. All right, enjoy the rest of this content. Nobody's
Right.
believing you. Maybe there's something going on that you're seeing things that aren't there, hearing things that aren't there, you know?
yeah, hearing things that other people aren't hearing.
Yeah. Not that aren't there, but I mean
Right.
from that mindset, you know, of it,
course.
and then saying, okay, I'll check myself in.
Yeah, there's a lot that I want to say to that. Now at this point in my journey, being able to tap into the spirit world and also then just drop into the physical and kind of be fully present here I have learned tools from shamans of how to activate that using my rattle or my drum, of opening sacred space so that I have a designated area when I'm holding space for someone else that I open up psychically. But I'm not walking down the streets in LA fully shaman mode.
Yeah.
Because
well, yeah, I mean,
too
yeah, it'd be way too much. It'd be like sensory overload times 10. So you go and let's go backtrack for a minute.
Yes.
So you say, okay, fine, I'll check myself in. And so what's this
Yes.
experience like for you?
I mean, I will say that that evening when I saw the entity, that whole thing started, I started to feel this magic and this joy, like everything that I believed when I was a little kid. I started to remember what little Rami thought, and all of his imagination, his lucid dreams, his connection with the trees and the plants and the spirit and the music all around him. I started to reclaim that and remember that I always was a shaman, that this is really ingrained in me. But during that experience, it was like heaven and hell at the same time, because I was experiencing this connection with spirit and the plants. But in the evenings, I would also be seeing shadow figures climbing up my walls. And it was... So after a few weeks of that, I was ready to go into the psych ward, and I did. And I mean, for someone who hasn't experienced it, it was basically like, you know, being on a psychedelic drug every day, waking up. Like, there were days I woke up and I was sure that everyone around me was an extraterrestrial. Or a day that I woke up and I thought I was Jesus, and I experienced my Last Supper, and I started crying because I didn't want to die, because I thought it was the end of my life. But there was a point in the psych ward where I was meditating on a ping pong table, and I knew that I was tapping into something real, that there was this real spirit that I was tapping into. I also knew that there was lots of projection and kind of psychosis happening at the same time. So I made a promise to myself that I would get back to that place, because I knew that it was starting to slip away a little bit, and that it would take more work, that it would take dedication to this path so that I could stay connected and still be grounded in the physical.
Yeah.
And so I promised that I would do everything to get back to that place. When I got out of the psych ward, I went to see a psychic, an elder psychic in my community, and she told me, you're a healer, you're going to be very involved with shamanism, start looking into it. She said, you're going to heal the masses. And I had this recording, played it to my family. They're just like, okay. You're
like, see?
Here we go.
I'm not crazy.
I'm not crazy. She said it. What?
This other person that talks to dead people said it to me, so I'm good, you know?
Yes, there's scientific proof right there. Now looking back on it, that was like 13 years ago. And everything that she said pretty much came to be. The first time she said the word shaman to me, I had never heard the word, but she showed me an image, and I was immediately like, you know, that looks like a cool thing to be. That feels right.
If you like this content, make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment below. And we also have amazing link right there for some cool product. I know you want to check it out. I know you want to click it. Go ahead. Go ahead. Come on. You can do it. All right. Until next time, have a beautiful, blessed day.